Yeah. The power's on the side. You push down on that side. I got it, sorry, turned it on.
Might have, here,
Okay,
And then
this one's
red,
rolling.
red,
Yep.
when it comes up.
okay.
Okay,
All right, it says no file.
no, this one.
Oh, this one, okay. I know what I'm gonna say.
All right.
All right.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, you guys want me to do the roll call? Yes?
Sure.
Sure.
Perfect. All right. Councilman McNamara,
Present.
can do all this. Councilwoman Trim. Here. Councilman Benedetti.
Here, aye. Here.
Councilman Curl.
Here.
Councilman Wolf.
Here.
And Councilman Bruger.
Here.
All right. All right, where are we? The agenda? We're right to the, Yeah, go straight to the legislation. And just for record, this is a meeting just to read legislation. We're not passing anything. It's the second reading for 6 resolutions / ordinances. Take it away.
Good. Okay. We have resolution 2020-05, authorizing and approving the execution of a contract with Unicode to provide website design and hosting services. That's our new website design. And that's our second reading. We have 2020-06, a resolution affirming the appointment of Ian Willis as a full-time police officer for the village of Minerva Park. He's way past his 6-month probationary period. Resolution 2020-07, a resolution authorizing and approving the execution of a contract with MKSK Studios Incorporated. These are the architects who we need to sign off on our baby pool. Resolution 2020-08, a resolution to authorize an advance to the 2020 Sanitary Sewer Project Fund. This is one of 3, correct?
Yes.
That we need to do to transfer money from an old account to a new account so that we can use the money. Ordinance 02, an ordinance authorizing a capital project fund for the accumulation of resources for our Public Works Commission sanitary sewer project. That makes the account that we're transferring things into. And an ordinance to make, ordinance 03, 2020, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriation to the current expense of the village of Minerva Park for the year 2020. And that is getting the money and moving it. And those are all the legislative items we needed to read.
All right, any new business?
So I assume this is where we talk about the links.
Nope.
No, first we're gonna close
We're gonna
out this
close this
meeting
out.
and then open a new work session.
All right, then, for the record, I'm an idiot. Continue.
You're not
No,
an idiot, you
no,
just
no.
didn't know the plan.
All right, any old business?
Move to adjourn.
No, I got citizen comments. Oh, wait, there aren't any here.
Sorry.
Sorry.
The cut through is working very nicely.
The cut through is working
Yeah.
nicely. There you go.
Saves 3 minutes on my morning commute.
See?
To future
All right.
legislative historians,
And then are
we
we-
apologize.
We have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There you go.
Aye.
Somebody say, it. Let's go. Okay.
Now stop this recording.
Stop the
Okay,
recording.
just right like this, stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
And then start a new one.
now do it again.
So
Hit
now the
record.
red button, because that cuts the file so that when she transcribes them. the 2
All right,
names
we're
have
rolling
separate
then.
meanings.
And for the record, Becky, I remembered. Okay. All right, Lakes.
Lakes.
This is this is your guys' meeting. It's work session, strictly lakes or anything relating to the lakes. I did talk to,
And this is February 17th for the record.
oh yeah, February 17th. And
All right, have that one.
you already have it? Oh, maybe they don't
I
have
passed them out.
I got
Until
it.
it. Did
the-
everybody get it? How did I get
Does
some
everyone get
copies?
the Metropolitan Environmental Services?
Yep.
Thumbnail bid?
You need a tone? I have
Bid might not be the right word there, but thumbnail estimate.
This is just, this right here is the guy that we got the estimate from, when Mike Flickinger,
Well, these are the dredging people.
yeah, those were the dredging people. It was just the one company we talked to a long time ago. But after our meeting with Tony, Joe, and David, and myself, one of the things that we had talked about, and again, this is just a discussion, was to focus on, maybe if we focus on something a little smaller instead of going with everything right off the bat, maybe we can actually get something done, because we've talked about dredging the lake and we never really seem to get any further than that.
Sure.
So talking about just doing the North Lake. The North Lake is the one that has not been done. We know that that one's at least been done. Not that that doesn't need done. It would go straight to next year. So as far as budgeting purposes go, as far as, just a smaller project in itself, in my world, would I rather just do them both? Yeah, look at me on the sewers. I'm go big or go home, I guess. But I don't know if financially, if this is the smarter way to go, just by trying to break it apart as to two different options.
And it'd be a good test run because it's smaller and we'll get a really good look at the lake bed surface, because the assumption number 4 is a firm clay floor, which due to the geographic area where we are in the state, that's a pretty solid bet, but it's always better to know for sure before we go to the big lake.
Yeah. One of the things that when I had talked to him today, we all already know that we missed the boat by not using the land that we had that didn't have houses on it. The issue that you have right now is finding somebody that's actually willing to take this. And that was the reason that he couldn't get me this quote until today. He finally found somebody that was actually willing to, and this is what they do. So I asked him, based on everything he knew, and again, we're not going with this company, or maybe we are. This is just somebody that I knew that I could talk to that would give me some information that's way more information that I'm able to get, So when I had talked to him, I said, what other options are there? I mean, as far as, he knew what we were talking about.
Yeah.
And he said, the issue that you're going to have is you're going to basically have to move all of the stuff to one side, let it dry out, and then remove it, because you can't remove it all as wet as it is, and we don't have anywhere to put it. So the issue becomes, we had talked about draining the lake, not draining the lake, and da-da-da-da-da. You don't have a choice. Okay, maybe we do. This guy doesn't seem to think we have much of a choice.
How is the North Lake filled?
So there's a
It's gonna be,
connecting pipe
From
from the South Lake to the North Lake, and stormwater runs into it.
I think there's two large sewers that go under
Yes.
the road.
No,
Those might be able to be
there's
blocked.
Yeah, it's one pipe.
There's one pipe.
Lake out.
My point being, the North Lake isn't fed by a stream.
There's 2 spots. There's a spot
That's what I
right
was
here
looking for.
that the storm sewer water, like on North Bay, and then in North Bay, there's a spot right there that goes over to here, and then, and this is where the thing goes across.
Yeah.
And then there's a spot here.
Okay,
And
so,
there, I remember from when the lakes were drained, there's a channel pretty much that runs this way over to here. And a little bit from there, over to this spot. So, like I've been saying for years now, that we need to drain, lower the lake, and probably put down some drainage tile, some 12-inch stuff from those points to that spot where it goes under the road. And then, then they come out there and start removing the stuff. And that's the way
Well, I
I
see what you're
remember
saying. Drainage tiles to direct whatever incoming,
when it rains.
so I wonder if we can even just drain the North Lake. Did Mike say that was a possibility of just dewatering the North Lake?
Well, you can lower it to the point where it's below that pipe that comes under the road.
Well, there may be a way to block
Well,
those
but that's,
two pipes. that
You
go
gotta
under
lower it
road.
down.
the only way you're lowering that down that far is if by
To lower
lowering
this,
the
right.
stuff.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna have to lower it.
Yeah.
That's
I would
just-
agree.
But what
Yeah.
Brian's saying is exactly what I was thinking. I mean, if it was feasible to block the two ducts that go under the road, you could pump the water out of North Lake into South Lake.
But then the next rain you have, it's full up again, right? That-
Well,
But you
not
can
if you-
create a, with a little bit of work and then to dig like a retention pond almost, kind of a thing.
Where?
Right where it's going under the road.
Right, yeah, right at the,
Right where it's
like
coming
your
under
first
the
step
road.
is to dredge out a big
dig
gully
up,
there and.
and then you have the drainage tile. I've been thinking about this for quite some time.
Now.
Well, there's parts
also-
of South Lake that are deeper than North Lake, obviously. North Lake's almost filled in.
Mhm.
North
If
Lake,
you could have a
North Lake
portable
goes
pipe,
from 1.7.
that went right through the aqueduct before you.
What are you looking at?
4.3, I'm looking at the pond volume,
Oh, okay.
the,
From the hydrological survey.
Yeah.
Do they have
Kansas-
depths on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
yeah, whereas, once you get down to about halfway on the, oh no, over by the dam, it's only 2.5 feet deep.
Yes.
The main part's about 4 to 5 feet deep in the, South Lake.
That's the deepest?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
5 feet's the deepest.
Yeah.
But that's not on Colorado, here's a 6.2.
When was that actually done? Because
That's
wasn't that like
recent.
2 or 3 years ago?
That was more like 4 years ago.
So it's probably even.
It's probably even shot.
Like a couple inches
2016,
off.
it's looking like, if I'm reading, it's
I think the sediment's like
I
2
think
inches a
2016.
year.
Sounds about right.
2 inches a year, I think they were saying, so
Maybe.
something like that.
Mhm.
Don't quote me.
So and again, you guys can get different estimates from a couple different people. You guys can talk about different.
The reason that I wanted to drain the lake also is to be able to come up with a more realistic number of how many cubic yards of material. Because I've talked to a lot of people, I don't know how they came up with 6,000 cubic yards.
They were out here in 2016. They were out here because there's another. If you go back and pull that other one, that was what. And here's the other part. This 6,000 cube. This is what it was in 2017 when they actually did this. So just kind of an FYI. And again, I would assume if we go even.
Can you,
Can I
I
see
didn't
go
have
over
a
there
chance
with you and
to.
have a look at some of that map
Yeah.
stuff? I just kind of.
If you have an HDMI cord, we can put it up on the TV. Or if you have an HDMI port,
Yeah.
which you do, we can put it up on the TV.
Can that be sent out to the rest of us?
Gene
sent
it out to everybody.
Yeah. Gene sent it to everybody on
Yeah.
111.
The way I
Yeah.
understand it,
I
they
can
take
forward
the
it to everyone
hectares
now.
of the surface area of the lakes, then they take the depth of the lakes, what desired excavation you want to do,
And I
and
have
they
no-
calculate how much material is in there.
And
You
honestly,
need
I
to
have
know
no
how
idea.
deep the muck is. That's the.
Well, they can measure that without
Well,
being in the lakes.
This was kind of like a really dumb.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I asked him, and I thought, well, maybe this is like the stupidest thing I'm going to ask all day today, but it probably wasn't the stupidest thing. I talked to a lot of people today, so
6 feet there.
there are some areas that are like super deep down over there. Humor me here for a
You're
minute.
talking about, yeah, over by the dam.
You know how some of them have, I'm talking about like in the new MI section. Like there are places like when you walk around, like you have some people that have walkout basements and those are just like, but there are some areas over there that are just,
That was by design.
Are you-
right, I know that.
You would dump it over there?
You could.
The purpose,
And,
the purpose of the
It's an
depth
option.
of those is, should there ever be a,
Oh, you mean like the gully that runs to the middle?
should there ever be an
of the
overtopping of the dam?
There was a couple different areas over there.
That would be obscene.
Should there ever be an
No, you would,
overtopping of the
you would
dam?
basically
I
use it as a
actually
filler. Well, you would use it as a filler and then because, I said, okay, what about the toxins and all that? And he goes, no, you would use, like he had, it wasn't the craziest thing I'd said all day because he was like, no, you would actually do this and then you would put like a certain height, whatever over top of it. So, and the difference is you're gonna save
You know
$60,000,
that
$70,000, $80,000.
It's not filler.
That's-
Yeah, it's not a
The ravine
filler.
is there, I mean, the ravine is there
Does it
because,
give you a surface area of the
oh,
North?
what it's
The,
doing in terms of carrying the
No.
water.
it gives me a key that says 1 inch is 60 feet, so I
If you
could,
try
Oh.
to, it's
If
like
I didn't
covering
have
up
this in there,
a
I
small
could use the
creek.
key and
It's
figure
just
out
tiny.
the surface
It'll
area
eventually.
and then multiply that by 3.
Alright.
Multiply
I
that
It
talked to
by-
Eric
It
not
will,
too long
just-
ago.
But that's the whole point. Eventually
They
it
designed
will
this
just.
specifically, MI and with all the codes,
I'm not disagreeing, but it's
Army
not like
Corps,
he's
the
walking
whole
on it.
works. And
But
if
it
the dam were to
smell,
ever.
And you have.
No, he said it won't
overtop
once you put the
there's a
stuff over
dam,
it.
Yeah.
That will channel the
So,
water away from MI.
Either way, it doesn't matter to me. It was just
I
a,
mean, it's,
I don't know if they did a lot of overkill on that or not, probably not.
No, when you are walking, it totally would. Because I don't know if you've ever taken the little path, they sell some of the old golf paths there.
Uh-huh.
The path that goes down from the dam, from the south end of the dam, it just goes down to a valley. There's not a house that's not 10 feet
Above.
above where the bottom of
They
that
don't-
valley is.
They didn't build anything down in the flood area.
Nope. They said, hey, let's not build in the floodplain.
Correct.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
not
They said,
done.
no one wants to live in the
It's
floodplain.
designed to hold the water as it overtops.
Yeah.
And flow it into Allen Creek and not.
Well, if you wanna make a dumb I can make a dumb suggestion too.
Go for it.
Just, I was reading about, there's a really great article, because Florida does dredging all the time, half the state has been dredged. But, so they're really good at it. But anyway, they were talking about one lake they had, was probably larger than this, but they actually, created an area in the middle, and they made an island
Mhm.
out of the
Dredge
Some-
material.
dredge material, right.
That
And-
sounds expensive.
No, you would
It
just,
was actually, the most
You
expensive
would
part
have
of
to
dredging
That's
is
true, that's
hauling.
true.
Yes.
Yeah, you're
Everything
not
apparatus.
hauling away
It's
truckloads
just
of dirt.
hauling
You're just
away is
pulling
the
it up and
expensive
dropping.
part, absolutely, totally.
Yeah.
So,
I see.
to avoid, this is just avoiding that, but, I mean, a real fantasy would be if they took the dredge material, pushed it up against the shore and created a walkway around the lake, wouldn't that be nice? Because there's enough material to do that. But in terms of fortifying it, so it would stay a path and not,
That occurred to
erode back
me
into the
too.
water.
That very thought occurred to me
Yeah.
also.
It's,
Thank
I
you.
don't know how solid that material is gonna be.
he said it's not. He said that's the the reason that my idea was not, ideal is
like
because it
liquid
will, even after a month, it'll still be.
it'll be settling for some time.
And before then, it runs just like a liquid.
Yeah. It'll be running back.
Now, they have these things called hydraulic bags they can pump it into, and it allows all the water back into the lake.
Everybody says that's
Keeps it
really.
settled.
That's like the
Okay.
second most
Yeah,
expensive.
that's
About
like, that's
180
the,
feet,
Lamb-
120
that's
foot
Lamborghini.
triangle, so
But-
you do half base times.
Nobody,
I
nobody
don't think
recommends,
you're,
everybody I've been
Looking
reading
for that.
since about 2014, they don't recommend it anymore,
This
because
is
it's just,
80.
hardly anybody has the kind of land it requires, and then it has to sit there and dry out for a while, and then you still have
oh,
to
yeah,
haul it
double
away
it, sorry, double
or
it.
rake it out, so.
Right.
So they gave us a scale and then they gave me a 2 inch.
So I just wanted to address Tony's concern of the 6,000 cubic yards. Went out to Google Maps and I measured the lake, right? Took a surface area, right? And a surface area, by mine, this is not super scientific, right? But it's a triangle, I know how to calculate it. And it's approximately 2,500 square yards is the surface area, right? So if you were to
Make up
take 3 feet of it, right, you multiply that by 3, and that gets you cubic, that would be 1 cubic yard, 1 yard down the whole way. And so times 3, that's 7,500. So 6,000 isn't even a uniform 3-foot reduction. So 6,000 doesn't sound like a ridiculous number.
That doesn't
Okay.
sound crazy.
How do we arrive at the 3-foot figure?
That was just easy.
Put
That was
Is
just
that
easy
something you
math.
want to look at
That
more
was just
detail?
easy math.
Putting
That was-
everything to that puts everything to more than 5 feet deep. That puts the shallow end at 5.5 feet deep. Like the shallowest point, well, not counting like right up next to the shore, but that would put the shallowest at like 4.7, I guess, but that's pretty much right next to
Well,
the shore.
And in truth, you probably wouldn't want a 3-foot reduction uniformly, right? You're tapering in and making a channel and doing all that. That was just,
But if you're gonna do it, you might as well take out more dirt than you need rather than less.
Oh,
Just to
yeah.
say,
while we're down
hey,
there.
Right,
But
at
I
least
just-
we're gonna have to do
I
it
just
again.
wanted
At
Let's
least
get
in the
the-
channel in the center.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that we addressed the first question was this 6,000 cubic yard number sounds crazy. And it is,
Realistic.
if anything, by my math I just did, it almost sounds low.
Yeah,
So,
to me too.
And again, this is something that they did
Yeah.
3 years ago, and they
Right, right.
probably said, this is what we're looking for.
right.
So, I mean, this is just to get us kind of started, and this is kind of like a best case scenario.
And you have at least.
I really want to follow up on what Brian said. I think that it may be quite feasible to block off those aqueducts going under Minerva Lake Road, and you
Oh, yeah.
can pump the water out of North Lake without having to drain South Lake, which would really make it simpler to do.
Let's just talk about that for a second, because this, in my opinion, is a good way to figure out how, if we lower this lake to actually figure out how much crap we gotta get rid of and how much silting
There's
that
a
there is.
lot. Again, I can tell you that I sank into my hips once.
Well, but
So that's at least
Well,
3
where
feet.
they're at it, by your house, on that side or
Uh,
here?
no,
When they were
right
cleaning.
in the middle, there was a lake cleanup day while the lake was dewatered for the dam repair. And it, my kid sank into his armpits and I sank into my hips. It was like a quicksand rescue, lean over and crawl out.
They have a specified routine.
and that was just-
Even the
You
aqueduct
would bottom,
guy,
you think?
I doubt it.
Well,
they
if something
drop these
stopped you, that
special
indicates well
rods in
for
there
your
and they can
play
measure
floor.
the depth of the
No, but
mud.
still, I'll go back to, it's all guesswork until we drain it
Mhm.
and check it out.
I mean, I would tell you.
Well,
this water-
aqueduct doesn't
Okay,
need
wait
to
a
drain
minute.
it, they go
Let
out
me
in a
go
boat.
to
and
a
they-
whole nother aspect of this that hasn't been discussed, is if we're going to put fish in here,
Mhm.
we need to eliminate the carp. We have to get rid
Yeah.
of, and that's where what I would like to see done is to lower this as much as we can and see how low it will go.
So,
Now we got carp in there, huh?
oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's in there.
There's a lot of other
There used to
things.
be bluegills, but I don't believe they came back after.
It
that.
kills every form
There,
of
there
marine
used to be
life.
catfish, there used to be bass, there used to be
Yeah.
everything in there.
Yeah. I mean, I've
Yeah,
only
there's
seen
a lot of
bluegills
turtles
and
and-
carp, but.
This and
I
that.
mean,
No,
You
I
haven't seen
I have
bluegill?
pictures.
Oh, I'm not saying they weren't there, I'm saying it's been a
friend
long
of mine,
time.
Oh, yeah,
where he
I
used
was
to live,
probably-
had a pond, just a neighborhood pond that was not much bigger than the North Lake, let alone the South Lake, and you pull the fish so high and a bit largemouth out
Well,
there.
that's,
Yeah.
I'm
I
glad you
was
pointed
10.
that out, because this number of having to get 8 feet deep is,
I don't know what the depth was on it.
well, I
That's
know
to be
many
a- that's-
ponds that aren't 8 feet deep, that
Right.
have fish in them.
Well, and I don't think he, and
And
here's,
not just saying fish, I mean bass
Right.
and bluegill.
but here's the thing with that is in the most ideal situation, that's what we want. But if we are at 7 feet in a 20, the other part was, did he not say it only had to be 8 foot and 25%?
It's just
Um,
a small area for. fish-
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Fish hatchery.
Yeah, so-
Initially, they were talking
Promote
about
the
the
fish.
4 dams, which would be 2 inches, basically, where the water flows in, so it traps the silt, so it doesn't fill up the lakes again. Adds 20 years.
And you drop 3
Between
feet on any
dredgings.
of these, 3 feet turns both these lakes into nice lakes.
Yeah.
And some parts are only 5 feet deep and some parts are close to 7 or 8.
The depth
I
he
mean,
was
some of us
talking
let up
about had to
behind
do with
feet,
the
but-
oxygen,
Yeah.
the oxygenation
so
of the water.
the
to
side
get
of
that
South
healthy
Lake.
and to be
so that,
able
I mean, to me, yeah, you don't have
for
as
fish to
bad of
be
a.
healthy.
So,
Yeah, most lakes in Ohio are only 5 to 6 feet.
Mhm.
If you go up to Salt Fork, if you go out to Indian Lake, if you go out to Buckeye Lake,
Okay,
Indian Lake, you can darn near walk across.
and the deepest part of Indian Lake is 12 feet deep.
I'm
And
gonna
it's
play a Diane thing.
tiny.
I guess,
I'm gonna play a Diane role. Is there anybody not interested in dredging? And the reason I bring that up, and I'm gonna do it so it doesn't come back and smack us in the face in a month. One of the things that they had brought to our attention was the wetlands. And some of the, some of the negatives about wetlands, obviously, is you're gonna have more mosquitoes, and maybe I'm wrong. It's in a neighborhood. I don't know all of the statistics, but does anybody have any interest in doing that? That's gonna
No.
save you from dredging, that's gonna save, but
We're not gonna fill in if
Well,
anything, it'd be the North
When
Lake.
you do the wetlands, what all the conservation people, Greg and everybody else say is that you put certain plants back in by
Right.
design. And the mosquitoes are food for the fish, if the fish are.
Okay.
So there's a way to do that where it's balanced out and you don't have terrible mosquitoes.
And I would say in the perfect world, that's probably the case, but I would say for us,
Well,
Yeah, in a large park system, that's fantastic. I was just walking around new wetlands in the Delaware Park system 3 or 4 hours ago, and that is fantastic. In a residential area, I see that having large scale implementation and successful establishment issues.
so my concern with talking wetlands up there is that the people who bought property along that North
Agree.
Lake bought property along a lake.
I don't disagree.
And I
And they
would,
wanna put a little paddle boat or.
right, and I would be very concerned that changing the nature of that property would would very likely bring about a lawsuit.
10%.
Tony and I actually found paperwork that I don't even know that we can do that, but it was brought to the table,
Yeah,
so
no,
I just kind of want to throw it
No,
off
I
the
think we
table.
all
Yeah,
want to
and-
get in
and
there
I'll-
so we
Okay.
can start pulling on that.
What brought the whole thing to the table was everyone saying they didn't want to dredge North Lake.
Exactly.
So now we're putting that back in the equation, and it changes a little bit. But the wetland thing is still, for conservation wise, a good idea if you know, it doesn't have to be any gray area.
Put some plants that are.
Yeah.
We can visit shoreline planting. I know plenty of people with being with park volunteer in different systems who could help us out with that, but
Right. so-
large scale wetland
But in North,
creation
in
in
North
urban
Lake
areas is
areas
usually a poor
around the
idea.
shore could be kind of a marsh or
See you on the
wetland.
team right
So,
I love a wetland. I'm a huge
So,
believer.
yeah, so let's,
You know,
we're done.
okay,
We're
so
done.
we're
We're
done.
done.
So- so the-
I agree.
We're done.
I think the other long argument was, the vacuum suck up the floor dredging or dewatering, and
Those just aren't options.
We have to de-water.
We were just talking about it, the
Here's the.
hydro, whatever,
There
there
it
was,
is.
yeah, there was a,
right, these are the people who know mechanical dredging.
okay, yeah, there's the got muck, yeah.
Yeah.
See, you had actually sent me that and I'd already looked at it.
That's with chemicals and stuff? Is that
No,
what-
this is, we'll vacuum your gunk out. Instead of going in and
Well,
doing
so the
it.
flow
we'll
bar
bar it
I
out.
looked into mini dredges that are like $10,000 and they move material 500 feet,
Mm-hmm.
and it fits probably on something probably not as big as these.
Mhm.
And, I don't know.
So there's parts of this that make
Beyond
sense,
this.
and
We're-
other
we're-
parts may
we like what
be
you got.
desirable, but
This kind of-
it talks about the
Well,
destruction of the
this-
version.
He had actually sent me this and I haven't had a
That we
chance
should
to
pay
call him
attention
yet.
to, I think.
So this is something that I will, and just so nobody else has to do it, I will call first thing tomorrow. This is one that I had already looked at and you had sent it. If you Google dredging, this comes up, it's like number 2.
It's got the cute little frog.
Yeah,
Look
so
how professional that website is.
Well,
just to see if it's even an option with as large as our lake is and all of the above. But again, they're gonna suck it up and they still have to take it somewhere.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, and we know that that's the majority of the cost. So this may not be, because it shows all these great little,
Okay, well, what size can they do? They can do 1/8 to 10
up to 10 acres.
Where can you take the stuff? Is it literally just take it to the dump?
Grove City is where he found that was willing to take what we needed them to take.
You're talking about like at the landfill?
Whatever, yeah.
Probably.
I know it was in Grove City because he
I
told
mean,
me.
Tony,
That's
when
what
Tony
we'll
was
take.
talking about
We'll take it.
wheelbarrows and shovels, I was trying to think about how to get Joshua
Well,
down there with his
This
one-ton bucket, dump it in there.
This is.
He has
an
a truck,
excavating
but if
project.
he doesn't.
Construction debris disposal
Well, hold on,
facility.
that's what this question is, this is the company that Joe has identified, that would do it non-excavating, right? So it's worth calling them, and
Having them give us
Mayor
some,
Hughes has indicated that she would call.
I will do
them to
first thing
see-
tomorrow.
And see if this is within scope of what they can do,
And-
right?
and-
Because I do believe
And they're
that,
saying that they like to
And
discharge
for
on
all
the
other
site.
purposes,
I don't think we have-
there's some really good information in there.
We don't have
Whether
a
or
place to
not-
discharge.
Yeah.
Even talk to them,
So
there's
there
some
would
very
be-
Because
good
if it's
information.
liquid form,
trucks
the
and
do's
sediment
and
will
don'ts.
disperse evenly among the grass and trees.
Yeah, no, they're talking about blasting out, you gotta look
Yeah,
at
yeah,
their, you know, they're,
but they
No.
probably have
But
the
they
ability.
say,
well, they're
well,
not,
it
they,
says, if not, we provide other alternatives.
yeah, if they don't, there's other ones that do, of
Let
course.
me throw a question
but-
out.
It
North
has
Lake's
to, they cannot
relatively
put it
small.
on, they can't suck
Right,
it
we're not gonna
and
make
put
it
it
real
directly
deep.
on a truck.
So
It
that's a
just
much
spreads the
smaller
skins
project.
down.
No, yeah.
So,
They can't suck it out and put it in a truck. They
'Cause it-
have to dry it, they have
Yeah,
to put
let
the
it
water
settle.
out
Right.
some way on site before they haul.
Which is why they said we would have to like scoot it to one, it's gonna be a 2-step process.
well, I
They
think
also
we should-
We're
have
not
a
gonna get
we should
around
probably
that.
let them tell us what they need rather than
Right.
us assume what they need.
They
So
also
yes, I
that's
will call this
usually-
one for a good comparison, because
So
there's,
we've already had one quote on that type of service, but getting another one isn't gonna hurt.
Yeah.
No, we had the $300,000 quote from last year for dredging, and,
just the North
we
Lake,
had the one, just one of the lakes, but it was the South Lake, I think it was 350,000.
They discuss
just
in
the
there,
North Lake is
some of the
282,500 is
hydraulic
the updated
will
from 3
spray
years
the
ago.
material up to 200 feet.
That's not this lake.
Yeah.
They
Sounds
claim
like we'll
it makes
probably
an
be fine
excellent
by 60,
fertilizer,
70.
but it's not a
All I'm saying
problem.
is
So
we
we
got-
have
we got
areas
two
there where they
quotes.
might
We
be
got
able
one
to spray
for
that, and actually,
Sucking it up and drying.
we'd
it.
have to
We got
clear
one
some of
for
the brush. first.
That was the same company though,
All your way.
wasn't it?
Right here.
It was the same company gave us the 3 estimates, okay. But this one's that got muck or whatever.
Yeah, so I also have concerns about heavy equipment access to the North Lake.
Yes. Oh, we were going to.
Yeah.
Here's
And
my
so-
view on this, and this is probably the dumbest thing I'm about to say. But I would assume with everybody having the issues that they've had, I would be very surprised if they were not all extremely cooperative.
Oh, I think you.
Oh, you might be
I forget her
surprised.
name.
I know.
When we did the
person that
trees,
allowed access for the trees was. took
No.
3
There's a
months.
very good
All you have
access
to do
point
is
at
put a
North
load of
Lake.
dirt
Yeah.
right at the edge of this, right here.
And
Right
Can we
here.
reimburse
She's concerned about
Here.
having been told it's gonna turn into a,
But they-
sewer
it
and
still
marsh.
takes 3 months
Listen,
to
I-
push.
she's very
I would-
cooperative, but there's a straight
I
shot
hear
down
what
the
you're-
driveway to the
Objection
lake.
to that.
Trucks.
I'd like an
equipment.
engineer to tell us that that's a good way to do it. That's what I would like.
For what?
An engineer.
Yeah, someone who is,
You know, what you need is someone who drives a backhoe.
Okay.
You know,
You know-
you don't need an engineer
No,
to figure out how to make a ramp.
I've seen enough people who drive a backhoe do dumb things with them that I would prefer an engineer.
Let's put it this way, you know.
Tony, I'll just say it like this. If you want me to vote yes on it,
Trailers, boat trailers.
I need an engineer.
whatever.
Well, yeah, well, we could
There
get
you
Mike, we'll get Mike, and we'll task him with an hour's worth of time. To
That's
say,
fine.
if you
Yeah,
put down some
yeah.
dirt, do you think a backhoe can get down that?
Yeah, that's what I would need.
I mean, that's fine.
And
So, you know, I would-
access through this
if we-
woman's property too.
If we go with something like this, I would certainly like to see, I would
Yeah.
agree that if we could
We've
block
used that
off the
before
pipe
and it worked great.
to the South Lake so that we're
He
not
was most
lowering
happy
the
to
South
let
Lake
us
so
do it.
much.
That was
Okay, let's get a straw poll here about who objects to lowering this lake.
Well, I think,
I'm concerned about it because as soon as you do that, well, I
What's
get
the
the,
objections to that?
because it's gonna sit there and then we're gonna have all the seed bank coming up, with all these weeds. And it has to be
Okay, write
then,
that down.
That's-
Objection
has to
number
be
one
filled
is,
in.
That's,
that we're gonna have weeds that we have to deal with.
like we did before.
Okay,
Well,
all right, what else?
I grows, and the second one is,
when
that
you're
we
making
have to-
notes, let's look at the feasibility. One of these people can tell us it shouldn't be that difficult, barring
Weeds.
some unforeseen problem to block those 2 aqueducts
But
off
it's-
where you could pump North Lake out.
the second
And
thing
then
is that,
lower South Lake when they're ready to work on it, as opposed to just draining it and
I
doing
guess,
Well,
nothing but-
Okay, let's go to
the
the
second
other thing about
concern.
having a lake cleanup.
Hold on, wait, we haven't even, you asked a question,
All
and
right.
Diane has been trying to answer it, and then nobody
Okay.
bothered to listen.
Oh, I'm listening. What
So
else?
let's answer the question.
The second thing is that we know from it being lowered before that it only fills up when it rains. So, if we have an unseasonably dry, anytime we're lowering it like that, we have a risk of, it not filling up, having more smells, which are.
Okay, wait, so I wanna make sure I'm
Smells.
clear on what you're worried about. Is that
I am worried about the
smell?
rain, I'm worried about the rainwater not filling up the lakes in a timely fashion. And, us
For
having,
what reason? What does
Well-
it need to fill up for? I'm trying to understand what
the
your
longer it's
objections are.
dry,
Okay,
the longer it's dry, the more
damn.
trees we're gonna have and bushes, not even.
okay, so we're
bushes.
back to weeds.
They're saying
We're back to
parks
things
that-
The
that
the
are
second
wrong.
thing is,
Okay.
even though this only happened once, Dick Busick, I
You
know,
talked about botulism.
botulism in 1 year.
Yeah.
Because the lake was too low,
Okay, let me write that
and they
down.
had to have water
Botulism.
cannons.
That should be
I
in these
wasn't here.
reports, but I went over that in detail with Lynn. And she said that the residents went crazy. The fish were flopping out here
Well, but
dying.
here's my point. I keep going back
They
to
were
we
going
need to get
berserk.
rid
The
of
smell
this
got
fish.
really bad. It was just.
That's why it's an
Yeah, you gotta get rid of
advantage. That's why there's an advantage to lowering it, so we can start getting rid of the invasive species.
Turn that back
on.
Which I know, okay, you may not
Kills
like that
everything
idea,
else.
but I'd like to hear what the rest of the people think
So
about that.
if we're gonna dewater the lake, which I'm not opposed to, I want it to only be once. right? That's the thing, because
So
it is a stress on the community. People get their knickers in a twist. People don't like it because of weeds. People don't like it because of smells. People don't like it because of botulism. People don't like it because, what about the fish? People don't like it because of the poor turtles. Lots of people don't, the people don't like, so if we're gonna do it, I would prefer that we only bear that pain once.
So here's the question, and this is a real question, and I guess nobody's really gonna have the answer to this. So let's just assume we lower them both again, like we did. We do this one this year, and that one, I mean, we're talking a long time, it's gonna be empty. But if you really did lower this one and it got as dry as it did the last time,
That's not.
the cost, it's not a bad thing.
That's
I mean,
not
I
bad.
understand it could
Wait,
smell, but it smells anyways.
It's only, as long as it's only dewatered once, I am not opposed to that.
Well,
I'd also prefer.
Bearing in
do it
mind
for
this will be
as
the
short-
third time.
As short as we can.
Well,
right?
and
But
I'm the only one that said, you know, if we can only tackle one, let's just tackle that one.
yeah,
And that was just because it was a smaller of the two, less expensive, da 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 da.
I think
If we can figure out how to fund this and get the money for it, again, everybody already knows, you know, I wanted the sewers done all at the same time because it was just done.
which
I don't know.
well,
we did
Well, so
vote
here's
to-
the thing, to do both of them, it's gonna be.
can we at least look
Yes,
at
it
this
is.
idea?
But it's gonna be $1 million if you do it 2 or 3 years apart too.
And pumping out North Lake, doing North Lake, and then do South Lake, whenever we please, and dewatering it or whatever, but not to have to
I mean, it's an
dewater
interesting-
North Lake for a long period of time, or South Lake for a long period of time when we're not.
I mean, I
utilizing
think the people who are going to do this probably will be able to say if they can do that or not. I don't know if we can
Right.
do water North Lake, just because in order to do that, I guess you could, because you could pump at night, but even that'd be rough. You'd have to close the road, because you'd be pushing it over the road. Your pipe is gonna go right over
Well,
the
you can
River
run
Lake Road.
Where they block it, they can run a pipe through there before they block it. Now, I don't know what that costs, that would be the main factor, I know they can do it, but they're two fairly small pipes.
And if they could use the existing pipe, but that's gonna be problematic, because you have a lot of pressure, because you're pushing on thousands of gallons of water on the other side and trying to blow water into it. So you're literally trying to raise up the lake water on the other side. That's why, from the bottom, that's why you need to run over the road to pump it, so it can go in. Otherwise, you're talking about a huge amount of energy and force to literally push that water up.
I've seen that done with canvas, basically fire hoses that flatten out, you could drive over them.
Okay, I mean, and maybe there is, if there's I think we just need to, as part of what we need, I think we're in agreement, we want to dredge / restore the lakes.
Right.
We don't know how it's going to happen, because none of us in here have ever done this or worked with a company that's done this, or as far as I know, have been here in the village when it's been done.
Okay,
Oh,
so,
no, I was here.
Okay, well, then why aren't you telling us how they did it last time?
Because it was
Come
30
on.
years
They,
ago.
dro-
It
they,
was 20,
they
it
carried
was
away
20 years
liquid.
ago.
You didn't take notes, it's not a
I-
documentary?
92,
I
wasn't
paid
it?
for it.
I remember things 20 years
Come
ago.
on,
Taxpayer
Diane.
dollars.
You weren't down here with your VHS, getting the records
That's
of
how they
it?
did it, they
You know-
hydraulically loaded it up into tanker trucks, like,
Mhm.
you know, they took away the liquid material. They
Yeah.
didn't let it settle.
Yeah, they didn't do anything, which I don't think is an option this time. Doesn't seem like
Well,
anyone
you
wants to
could
do
have
that.
done. God,
Seems like nobody wants to move
No,
water.
nobody
Yeah.
wants to move water.
Yeah,
there.
And the sediment is basically a liquid.
okay, so let's go backwards.
Well,
How are we gonna pay for it?
we'll pay for
If
water.
Well, yeah.
Wasn't it, we
Good
just
question.
paid the grant writer to go find us grants, to see if there were grants?
They're not, yeah.
No, he wanted
They're
money
demo.
just to see.
Yeah, and we voted to pay him the money to see if.
No, we haven't,
No,
thought
no,
we
no,
did.
we didn't because.
she wanted to look into the EPA ones.
Uh,
But that and, the proposal was to see what grants are available for lake stuff.
Yeah.
If we go out now and say, we want to do this, we want to dredge the lakes, it's this and this and
Sure,
this and this. Now find a grant for us. I'm okay with that. I just didn't want somebody to go fishing for some kind of grant that has something to do with lake and water that
Sure,
we might be able to make work.
sure.
It gets complex. There's all these bills before the US Congress right now called clean
Well,
water.
I
They're being
just,
pushed really
Well,
hard.
that's-
no, there's some that are out there, and I know that, I was looking for the EPA grants last night because, just because the EPA always has someone at the municipal meetings, and, they're always promoting their grants, I think there's somebody there that would talk to us about that. But we have to say what we want. And so here, we're saying, this is the kind of thing that we want to do. Is there a grant coming out this year? But the thing is that it would have to be for, it would logically have to end up being for next year by the time we submitted, and if they approved it, and then they awarded it, and then da-da-da, it'd be next year.
So the big
But I think we-
infrastructure
I think we
money's been
should
held
do-
up for 2 years in Washington. But they're getting ready to cut loose.
I do think we should, we could afford to, based on, from the last financial report from Kim anyway, that she set aside about $300,000 in the budget for dredging or whatever for the lakes in anticipation of this. And so I know we could do one.
Yeah.
So we could do one this year with our money. Meanwhile, at the same time, we can find grant money. It may take more than one application to more than one agency to get money for the next phase 2.
Sure.
And then we would be showing in the grant, we could say, here, this is what we're spending, and so we can see where we're doing our share on this.
And,
Well,
and also putting us at the end of this year is gonna put us a lot closer to knowing what money we actually have.
We could,
And I was at that same finance meeting, we ended up last year about $300,000 under budget, or we made about 300,000 more than we spent. That's not with all the new houses and their income tax coming in, which could be extra a year. Now, we're gonna have more expenses. We already know the mosquitoes, of course, going up. Our lawn care is gonna go up because we have a whole bunch of new lawn care. But we could be in a situation in 2 or 3 years that we're
I think we.
coming in $400,000 or $500,000 a year. And which I know Tony wants to give back to people, and I'm like, before we do it, let's just take that money and just pay for the lakes. Let's just, if we haven't, let's just pay.
I'd rather have the lakes than a check.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Unless it's $1 million.
We can leverage a beautiful
Well,
little
$1 million
urban
split
oasis of this
1,000
lake
lakes
to
is-
draw in more people.
But the money basically flows from DC to the state, and then the state distributes it, and there's an Army Corps of
People want to live
Engineers.
here, people want to be here.
There's a number of places to look.
so,
and
as
there's-
far as money, I do believe that these lake projects count as the kind of infrastructure that TIF funds can be spent on. And I do believe we are 2.5-ish years away from being able to borrow against future TIF revenues. And I think that is our,
Why would we want to do that?
Well,
because it's basically borrowing our own money early. We'll get some paltry little interest rate on it
Well,
and get it done.
And then we can hand them the money and say,
And they
well, we
I
can.
mean, if we were, there wasn't a little interest rate I could see.
Well,
No,
We're
but I
not,
don't
we're not gonna be
understand why we
talking
wanna
credit card
borrow.
interest rates here, Tony. We're
Yeah.
talking about like 1%.
And wouldn't it be a lot
The atmosphere is
Easier
that
to
everybody wants water cleaned up
borrow against that
everywhere, from
versus
Florida to
the
California.
grant process
I believe
of
so.
2 years?
I believe
So
so.
there's no
So
political
that is if we're looking at action items out of
There'll
this,
be more
right?
money coming.
Getting
They
our
were getting
fiscal officer
infrastructure
and
going
or attorney to clarify the ifs and whens on when that sort of a maneuver can happen, that will help us understand. Because, I feel like that is a good use of that money and a good way to do it.
I had thought about that as well.
Yeah.
Only I was ready to.
I would say,
I'm not gonna lie, that was the discussion when the TIF agreement was.
Well, the city of Columbus is doing the hoochie-coo right now with the arena. Not that I agree with what they're doing, because that was not transparent at all.
But we're not Columbus, we're
but
a
they-
little
but
under
they-
budgeted place.
No, what I'm saying, they renegotiated their TIF. So it can be done to,
Yeah, this isn't a matter of renegotiating the TIF. We
no,
have
this
a,
is easier.
yeah, we have a known revenue stream and an understanding of when that revenue stream is coming. there are instruments by which you can borrow against a future revenue
I guess
stream.
I guess my only thing with that is I think we're gonna have the money to pay for this
Well,
without borrowing money.
Even better,
That's what.
but I don't believe that yet, right? I'm not gonna
And I
count
would
on.
say-
I don't either,
Because
but
remember, at the same time, we also have a community center that's gonna cost us $1 million.
I do believe there's an outside chance
Well,
there may be
that's-
some
that's a
partial
whole other
funding.
night.
I mean, yeah, but I'm saying,
Don't even start.
over the next 4 years, from
That
what
are
I can
gift
see,
grants.
we have, now that I know how expensive these lakes are, we have $2.5 million in projects to get the 3 things we as a council said we wanted to do.
Yep.
The community center is $1 million, lakes $1 million, sewers are $500,000.
No, that was,
On top of the $1 million I've already spent.
yeah.
Yeah, but you've already
isn't
spent that, so that money's been gone.
Isn't that?
I don't care about that.
I like taking credit for the fact that I've spent this
Okay,
much money.
well,
No, I'm teasing.
We're very, very happy.
Money well spent.
That 500,000 was just the storm for Jordan though, right? That wasn't the whole
Yeah.
village.
Oh, yeah, no, that's just
Yeah.
this little,
So the
yeah,
storm, the
Oh,
storm
never
is,
mind.
the storm is really more
Yeah.
like 2.
There's
Yeah.
also these things
But we
referred
don't
to as
believe that
research
the rest of it's
grants,
really gonna be that bad.
in which
So-
case, lots of
Because that-
times, they don't require
They're the ones
repayment.
with the really bad
Yeah.
sanitary. Apparently,
Research.
Jordan just has bad.
The whole impetus of the country is to clean up water. In fact, the whole world is trying to do this, but
Have
there,
you
I don't
heard
know,
of
there's
recent
7
EPA
bills
laws?
before Congress. They're
Yeah.
they're getting around hopefully to the infrastructure bill, but if, on a research basis, you know, if we could get some partial funding that have been
No,
Yeah,
required.
the other
Pass
thing is
until at
the-
least
And that would be
we
based
work
on, we try some technique
Yeah.
The
And
one thing that they said
to
was,
clean the water up
in
and it
terms of
works.
sediment,
And then
keeping sediment out
they use
of the lake, is the motion of the water.
Mhm.
And if there's a flow through, which we have, which, one good thing is we do have water flowing in and out of the lake.
Right.
And so that plus wind, making waves, which we do have ripples, I would say, on a windy day in some parts, you know, will stir the sediment and move it along and
Right.
push it over the dam.
Yeah,
And so
that's why
there's
the area
less
next
of
to the
a,
dam is so shallow.
so there's
I
less.
dreamt about that one night, just stirring that
So
all
it is
up.
possible
and
if that sewer, once those sewer pipes get in there, once that,
The new ones.
there'll be larger flow coming through there, pushing that water from the North Lake over.
All the better
And it does
reason to
make
have
a
it deepened.
significant difference.
Mhm.
When the wind happens to blow that way and it blows
Right.
towards
Well-
the South Lake, it does make a difference on the surface of the water.
And what'll make a big difference, Diane, is it isn't that there's more water that comes in, the runoff's the same. But depending
Well,
on the
no, what
amount of
happens is
rainfall,
it's
when the
not coming.
sewers are unplugged, the water comes through faster.
Right.
And the velocity of it is
That's what I'm
what
talking
moves
about.
the stuff
Right.
Yeah,
downstream.
yeah, that's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
so I'm getting antsy here. So let's talk about action items.
I know,
Let's
yeah.
talk about scope. So far, I've heard a call into.
I'm gonna call
Gottmuck.
Gottmuck tomorrow.
Right. I think it would be very interesting if we could get these guys to give us an estimate on both lakes,
And I will reach out to him
right?
right now.
So, but I think dredging is only, what, 1/3 of our problem,
It is.
right? So we also have to talk about, what are we doing about all the trees that are just hanging over the water?
Are they living trees? Are they dead trees? What are we talking
Most
about?
are
They're
living.
living trees.
Mostly living, but then what they do is they directly dump all their leaves right into the lake, which,
That's what
And-
trees
and-
do.
yeah, but
limbs
but we have
and
more
bark
than
and-
is, what we have heard is that we have more than is appropriate and sustainable.
Well, if
I can
you
get in
do-
touch with the
And
state
they're-
foresters
That
and
would
see
be
if we
awesome.
can have one of them come out, walk the lakes. Me and my wife have done that property my in-laws own.
Done.
In the
Take it as an
daytime, you
action
can-
item.
Will do.
You can
Okay,
drive
so
your car down
hold on.
there and park and look, and you can see the ones hanging over the water.
Could I reasonably do that? Yes. I've helped manage woodland and invasive removal back in my hometown. That's,
So then the
Well,
other
that's-
thing
that's-
is
okay.
silt
yes,
management,
exactly. One of the
right?
actual expert, not
right?
me.
Because those are the 3 things I think we need to deal with on the lakes, right? The trees, the dredging, and silt, and more than silt, I'll just call it the crap coming downstream, right? And so we've talked about a garbage trap up by Cleveland Avenue in the past. We have a sill pit up by the rock dam that is, I'm sure, full up, that probably could
It's
also,
terrible.
yeah, But, the point of that thing was to capture it so that that would be one place to remove from.
It just didn't work.
That was
Second
just in the
problem is
wrong
only
place.
this side. My personal opinion, I don't know that there's any silt coming in through storm sewers into North
Well,
Freehold.
This rock dam never worked.
Oh, yeah. This is a problem that I believe is also this side, but, we also need to address that. That should be part of our bigger picture here.
Well, I agree with that. And were you with Lynn and Dr. Bragg when we went up there and looked at the rock dam? Because basically he said, well, this doesn't work for what you want it to work, but it could. That's what he said.
I mean, dams are by and large being removed all over the country for
No,
being.
no, it's not a rock, believe me, it's not.
It's not like this kind of an
So
issue.
there's rocks over there, it's just to
It's
slow
just
down the
a-
flow.
Oh, okay, so it's doing what we
nothing.
want it to then, okay.
No.
Okay.
That's a thing.
It's not, yeah, it's not.
I go on crusades against low head dams.
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
it's
some
led
sort
to
of
a lot
maintenance
of,
there is the other thing, but I don't know what, right? I know it's a problem, but I don't know anything about what needs to be done to fix it.
So here's gonna be my
I don't know
question.
how big of a problem it is mine. I mean, I know there's a lot of people think it's a big problem.
Well, what it does is
The
it,
people
well,
live
they
there.
probably stopped giving up playing years ago when we put it in, but it backs up, during a heavy storm, the water backs up. And it's not doing what Dr. Bragg also said, it needs to be further in. It's in the wrong spot. And it's
yeah.
not doing, no, so he was saying, rip that puppy out of there. And
Well, that's what
if you're
it
gonna
was.
have one this way to catch the silt. Do
This
it
very
right.
shallow area up here, what he was
Right.
talking about is putting a small ford dam in that you don't see, it's underneath the water. But when the water comes in, it slows the water down to almost a dead stop, so it drops the silt.
Right.
And the, cleaner water flows over the top of it, which you don't see, but he said it would literally,
So I guess.
add 10 more years of life before dredging.
Yeah, so I
10 to
guess
15 years
and then you'd
in
just
the
be
main body
dredging
of the
in
lake.
one spot, but
And it could be
I mean,
made
I
to
think-
look like a wetland, it'd
so
be
we
wonderful.
just need to have somebody give us a quote on that, ripping that out. And doing it right.
Here's my view, and you guys can all. So obviously, the dredging part is first and foremost, which is gonna take time in itself. So is this something you guys wanna continue to talk about? Is this, and I'm just throwing this out there because this is stuff that has been brought up for the last year, or is this something you guys want to invite residents in to discuss the actual details of, like, some of the plant life around, the edges?
That's down the way. I mean, I think
So
just.
you want just-
I think we have to have a bullet pointed plan for not only dredging, but my opinion is we should have the next two steps after that, because otherwise we'll just be dredging it and then we'll forget about it.
Yeah.
And then we'll be
It'll be a success. and
somebody, I
move
won't
on.
be here probably, but whoever's here 20 years from now is gonna have the same hot mess.
No, because I'm bringing my camera this time. And
Hopefully
we'll
it'll
just
be
make
a
a little
lot
documentary, so the next group of people know how to fix it.
The one thing about the Ford Dam area up here where we're talking about, it would eliminate quite a bit of dredging you would have to do.
And we've got, yes, and we've got a
So you
spot
save a
there
little money
where,
there, but you
that
gotta
goes
build
down
it.
to the water edge and you'd be able to easily,
So who,
I'll do that. I will go. get
But
some quote- I'll
on the
get a
rock
quote.
dam, I don't
Okay.
think he said
It would
tear the whole thing out. I
yeah,
think he
it would
said
be interesting
move the
because,
rocks around.
again, I would love to only dewater once.
Right, that's what
Right? And so if we're talking about this Ford dam, getting an understanding of if and how much that costs would be really nice, because I think that we should fix it right the first time, right? That we shouldn't put a Band-Aid on it and then hope that we or councils down the road, go back and set the bone. We should just, if we can, bite the bullet.
Drain the thing, scrape it down
I'm
with the
pretty
clay.
certain I can go down here and
You're
get the
going
whole
tomorrow,
department
you
to do
can
a
ask
crude design of the
These
area
guys,
that
if they
it
know
needs
what
to
a core
cover,
dam is and if they do
basic
that.
construction,
And then, I can.
planting and that sort of thing.
If they say
And get a
no.
good idea on
I'm gonna
that.
ask both of them. These people and the,
Okay. And then I'd be happy to
Do
go
we know
elsewhere.
who
And that would be
Am
some
I
very good
subcontracted
information
with
to
for the
have. We
dam?
know what we
Yeah,
don't
that
need
was
to dredge.
the, engineering, the EI.
You guys live in the new MI property.
EM.
too.
EMH.
Lakewood.
EMH.
There would be a
We
real
should come over
benefit
and have
to
a
having
beer,
this
don't you know?
4 dam.
You know what?
up here.
I'm off tomorrow. Let's
For the
get this
wetland
done.
birds,
I
it
will
would be
tonight.
paradise.
I've been thinking about it.
What?
For the wetland birds, this 4 dam.
There we
up
are.
here, And if there was
They
a
showed
little
you on the
one
map,
over here,
right?
it's paradise for the egrets and the cranes and the,
Oh, you're right around.
keep the geese out.
house.
Oh, wow.
Is it actually
That's
called
over
a
this stuff.
4 dam?
You're on
Four
the-
bay,
Yeah.
4 bay?
You're right. I guess my house.
FORE,
And here's.
as in B4.
Golf course.
No golf
This
courses.
is-
just-
How about eBay?
I'm glad it's gone.
This is an old picture where they haven't done any of this yet.
Yeah,
They had it
it's all-
planned out.
The ancient Romans
Yeah,
used
Google
4
Maps.
dams.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, golf courses are the
Yeah,
devil.
well,
I think-
I'm so glad it's gone.
prehistory
Not long ago,
before
they
that,
still
the
had golf
Egyptians
courses.
did.
So
Hold
David's
on.
going to check about the trees.
Trees.
because
I will speak with the Ohio Department
You're
of Forestry about recommendations. What they do with this process, guys, I've done this more than once actually, is they'll send, if everything goes ideally, they will send a Ohio State Forester out and some liaison of the council, myself, I'm guessing, will walk with them around the lakes. We can put out a little notice, I guess, beforehand on the website or whatever, so that there's fair warning that maybe, I don't know, 2
People
people
walk
walk around the back of your backyard.
So-
the land against the
so
lake.
the
If
good
you would
news
like,
is-
I'll bring the head banana out
The good
here,
news is on the south.
and he can bring a couple of his
We
guys.
have village easement all the way around the South Lake. The
So
North
North Lakes
Lake,
where they run into some issues.
the North Lake, there is no village easement at all. That is all private
No, it's
property.
half of it.
Oh, it is that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, I know.
So it would be good to know.
That stumps is called
The,
Miller.
Ah,
Yeah, so this
Okay.
side is.
What's
What's it?
Well, there's technicalities of the easements, but just before Jennifer and,
We could get a boat, we get a paddle
So-
boat.
You can borrow my canoe.
we need a little Zodiac.
Well, I think binoculars will probably get you where you wanna go, but.
I don't think they're gonna recommend a whole heck of a lot. Trees exist, trees don't leave.
So the
Well,
thing that,
that's-
the point, the only point that Greg made, which is true, is if you wanna have more air they don't have, if they had more air circulation back in that pocket.
I agree with that, and that's typically not trees as much as it is undergrowth, which is,
Yes.
yeah, I would bet dollars a
undergrowth
don, it is
needs to go.
emmer honeysuckle.
Yeah,
We do have
I
some.
was back in there. I don't think
There's some
I-
very desirable plants, but
Did you say, okay, well, we'll talk about that
with
later.
the whole aquatics
No, no, he
department
wasn't
of
saying
Ohio
there
State,
was.
Okay.
He was saying there are.
what the whole aquatics department of Ohio State kept talking about is that on the west side,
We actually
Of
do have
North
some
Lake.
good remnant stock.
it is so blocked off by the houses and all this underbrush that the prevailing winds come to the northwest, the northeast from the southwest. Well, no air gets through there. This is part of what creates this horrible stench. And also it
Stale
lowers
water.
the
Point being,
oxygen.
we go around the lake, he writes a paper to
So-
me on what he
You don't
saw
have to
on
clear
the
cut
regs.
it.
He recommends that I forward it to the mayor forwards it to the council, or, I'll forward it to everybody that is,
And then we act.
and we talk about it.
Yeah. Perfect.
Point is, we can
Well,
knock this
so-
out in a week,
something
once
we
we can
can
get the
do.
guy set up to come in here and do it.
All right, so I believe we have action items on all the aspects.
Well, there's one more, I just like.
It may be double coverage. I'll get some super experts out here
Yeah, whatever you'd like.
and walk the
There-
thing again. and
There
get-
are just
You
some,
don't
there's
need
some
super,
pockets where there's no.
Yeah, whatever you
wire
like.
goes-
We're
goes
trying to
stale and
deci-
sits like by the-
decide exactly about where the 4 dam would go, how it's built.
That's a different, that's not what he's
That's a
talking
different-
about.
I know, I understand.
Well, also like, this is way cart before the horse in it, but I know last time we drained and they just cut a hole down in the north end of the South Lake, and that's what that
Well,
gutter
there's a-
there is where they probably
The
do it.
dam has a
No,
drain.
the dam has a drain, so you just open the
Oh,
flood.
the valve.
and shh.
Oh, good, because otherwise if they were gonna do the thing they
Oh,
did
no,
last
no,
time
no,
where they
no.
cut a hole.
No,
in
no,
it,
no, no, no,
I
no,
was
that's
like,
a
I
whole
want a
different-
temporary bridge, but.
That was only
if it
because they had to repair, they had to
Yeah.
rebuild the whole dam, and so they.
No, if you had to use pumps, it'd take you months to empty it.
Pumps.
And this
Well,
one-
that's what they do if there's no drain.
Well, I mean, the last When they did it before, they just.
Well,
Now,
that's
that's a good question. Are there any pumps built into
I keep
the,
going back to draining the lake completely so we can find out how low it goes.
Mhm.
That's, to me, is a piece of information.
Okay, so
To
A,
see, to see,
I don't believe you need to pump the lake to do that.
I know, I'm not talking
No,
about
aqueduct.
pumping.
Or no, drain the lake. You don't need to drain the lake to do that. If you
You
really.
need to drain the lake to find out how low it'll go just using the drain.
Oh, that's what you're
Just
saying.
using the drain.
Oh, well, we.
Probably not very low, because where the dam is only 2 feet deep.
Well, that's.
Where
And
is
if
the
you
dam
have-
on that?
So-
See, this is
Is
the
it all
thing.
that
Hold on, that's a
down?
whole- So A, this is the first time I've heard you say it that way.
Okay, well, there, see, this.
Because
But it's
I have a
only gonna
whole
go
other
as low as the
understanding of what you're
silt.
saying than every other time you've said that.
Well, because I.
Because every
It's
other
only
time you
gonna
said
go
that, I
as low
thought
as
you
the
meant
silt,
how
Drain it
deep the
completely.
muck goes.
You know,
I'm
the
gonna
other
take
thing
this.
that could be
I'm gonna
done
take this
if
to be
draining the lake is.
What he's
Okay,
saying
well,
is
see,
that
we
that's
were making
how much
major,
the dam-
major breakthrough here,
It's-
because that has always
looks like
been my
water.
goal.
Okay,
is to
Diane,
find
Diane
out.
was trying to say something. Diane, what were you trying to say?
I was just reading about, and again, in the same article, they did core samples in the middle of the lake.
Mm.
And they,
Yeah.
core samples, and they looked at how low the muck went, and they looked at the amount of what was composted and what was not composted, et
Right.
cetera. So
Is
it
that in
gives you
that-
a really
that's
good
in that-
idea.
Is that in
of
that
how-
report from Gene?
And
No,
No,
but,
there's
no,
another
another
one.
one, I was reading, what they do, I was reading a report, from the, University of Florida, who was, great research papers, about 10 pages long, but in great detail, but they talked about doing core samples in the lake to see how low,
Yes.
how far the muck went. So,
Well,
Which is what I was getting, as we could
And
probably
this still-
do something like
that
that.
instead.
And a simple
Okay.
answer to something similar to that, just so you know, they will do soil testing. It's gonna cost us about $1,000 on top of all of this. Because before they will remove it and do all of this, they have to check how much metals in it, how much
How much
this, that. So
lead,
they will be
yeah.
doing that.
if you just wanna know the depth of the muck,
Okay,
the
this-
aqueduct guy told me, who, by the way, is a student at Braggs, was, all of
So
them
we're
are,
going
and
completely backwards.
they have a down and dirty method where they go out on a boat and they,
That's what they
they
did
have-
with the hydrology report.
Yeah, they just go out on the boat.
they have a
So
rod, they go down, they could,
this did raise a
Like maybe how
memory
deep
in
the
my
muck
head,
is.
is that our dam management program is supposed to have that valve opened every,
Year.
it was
Or 2 years.
every year or I thought it was quarterly, quite honestly, like, just to open
It's
and
either a
close.
year or 2.
We should look and see what that is, just to make sure that we are doing that, because I'd hate to go to dewater this lake and find out that that valve is stuck because we haven't worked it ever.
There,
Where do we get our hands on some of this material that they did when they, all the studies and this and
Gene,
that?
Gene just emailed it to all of us.
Did he?
Yes,
To me too?
yes.
Okay.
On the 11th of January,
Homes are not.
January 11th.
Well, here are the homes that are.
On the system
This looks
email?
like a huge drainage area.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, going back to lowering the lake to the point where the drain is going, I'm not talking about pumping it out.
Oh, no,
Because
I'm not
that's-
gonna, I don't think we were ever talking about pumping it out. You just wanna see how much water is left when you, well, that should be that should probably be in the dam materials.
Well, I guess what I'm looking at is to lower the lake with just the drain and to see
I have
what
no idea where that
part of the
information
land
is.
is
to find it. If anybody
How
knows.
does the water enter the
Sleeping,
drain?
anyone
Drains at the
literally
bottom
like
of
dropping
this
out.
catch basin?
I don't know.
If you were at River Lake Road,
Well, if the drains at the bottom,
no, that's a different
even if
thing.
the
No,
sediment's
I
high.
haven't found that one yet.
I think that's the report that they did to determine whether or not
My
the
point is,
pipes that communicate the water between the north and south lake is
without
sufficient.
looking at this
Yeah,
further,
it is.
when
Yeah.
you lower the water to where it's at
Okay,
the
can we-
sediment level,
I think we,
to extract more
I think
water
now we're
out
just
of
flapping
the
our
drain,
hands,
when it
right?
could be
So
lower
we
than
should-
that, and
we
wait
should
for it
close this
to
up.
drain into that catch basin. Which might be
I think we need to review action items and get the heck out of here. Because now we're just talking over each other.
Hey Tiffany,
Tiffany,
we're just chatting, so can we close out the meeting, keep chatting if we want to, go, leave if we don't.
So the action, let me be
Yeah, yeah.
clear.
Tiffany's-
The trees.
Tiffany's calling on dredgings,
Yes,
right?
sold.
David is calling, Ohio Forestry to talk about trees. And Diane is calling places about a 4 dam.
But we have not discussed if, what means to lower the North Lake.
So
Have I missed some
Well,
discussion
we
over
don't
there?
know
So-
because we don't know.
So I think before we get there,
I
we
think-
should understand the dredging methodology
Okay, I
and
feel that, I feel
then
that.
figure it out. Seeing as one of the places is a pump it out kind of place.
Tiffany
The
said
other one's
she's going to
lower
be speaking to
straight.
them. The question could just be laid on them. Is it feasible to block off?
I kept
Yeah.
pushing on that.
Yeah, I mean, people have done this before,
That
hopefully
money be-
have done this before and will say, oh,
President
yeah,
gave
you're gonna
last
be-
If it was a
year.
bridge and the water
Those
flowed
monies
over
were
there, you
in-
wouldn't be able to
they
do
were in the-
that.
So if you have our
Two
action
pipes.
items, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
no.
Abstain? Okay.
Yes.
I can dig
Now
out my
it's
last
healthy.
report.
I just wanted to make sure.
Who's to say miracles don't happen?
Anybody want a beer? You're welcome to come over to my house.
These days I will.
You know what, I'll give it a shot.
Come
I'm
on.
not a huge drinker,
I
but
got hard cider.
awesome, I'll sit down and get to know you a little bit better.